Good evening and welcome to the September 27, 2021 Goffstown Select Board meeting. First up on the agenda would be Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all join me? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1 on our agenda is the acceptance, corrections of minutes from 9/13/21 public and non-public.
I make a motion for the 9/13/21 public and non-public minutes with corrections if need be.
Second. Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none. Just to make a quick note, we are short 2 members tonight, Chet and Collis. They have both called in. Mark, did you have an announcement that you wanted to?
Yeah, this past weekend at the New Hampshire Fire Academy, we had the annual memorial for the firefighters that die in the line of duty death. And we had Captain Stephen Tower, his name was added to the memorial up there. And we had several other names added. Last year we had like 7 or 8 people die in the line of duty, so it was a pretty tough year for the state of New Hampshire. Well attended. Goffstown, we had, 15 guys maybe, Chief? Yeah, 15 or so people. It worked out well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to go over to the, still got some time, Derek, over on the administrator's report, start on that.
Sure. If you go to tab 9A, you've got your committee meeting schedule for the next, we put in for the 3 weeks. Just a reminder, your next meeting is a special meeting. It's a week from today here in this room with the library trustees at 6 p.m. Budget committee and school board will hold the first joint budget presentation for the school side at the Goffstown High School Media Center at 7 p.m. next Monday. I think that's you, Selectman Lemay.
Yep.
Tuesday, 5:30 Sewer Commission. That's Vice Chairman Bowen, so I'll talk to him separately. Wednesday at 6 p.m. Economic Development Council, again, Vice Chairman Bowen. 7 p.m. Again, Budget Committee with the school board over at the high school. And then the week of October 11th, on Monday, Town Hall will be closed for Columbus Day. And then on Thursday of that week is Planning Board at 7 p.m., which is usually Selectman Adams. So I'll put these in your packet for next week, just as a reminder when you meet with the library trustees. At your next page, you've got your consent agenda for the week. You have a firefighter merit increase for a degree, a dispatcher rehire, a call firefighter 2/EMT resignation, firefighter retirement, a firefighter 1A EMT promotion, and an EMT firefighter EMT merit increase. You have rights to inter on Shirley Hill Cemetery, Section 1, lots 25 and 26, and Shirley Hill Cemetery, Section 1, lots 82 and 83. A discharge of property lien for map 32, lot 26E44. And then you have an event permit. This is a reissue. We had an incorrect date previously issued in May. This is for the annual Pumpkin Regatta 10K road race. It's actually on Saturday, October 16th from 8:30 to 11. And then one item that we did add in this morning was a disbursement voucher for the Grassmere Town Hall Restoration Fund in the amount of $668.14. That's for the Curtains Without Borders, that work related to that.
Any questions or discussion? Take a motion.
Motion to approve the consensus agenda as presented.
Second. Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. 3-0.
At your next page, you have assessor's recommendations. This is a release of elderly and disabled tax lien for map 6, lot 22-144.
Make a motion to approve the assessor's recommendation as presented.
Second.
Map 6, lot 22-144.
Now I'll second. Any discussion on that? Questions? None? Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Your next page, you have a volunteer appointment for Parks and Recreation Commission. At the September 15th meeting, the commission unanimously recommended the appointment of Eric Emmerling as an alternate member with a term expiring March 31st, 2022.
Motion to appoint Eric Emmerling as alternate member on the Parks and Recreation Commission with a term expiring 3/31/22.
Second.
Rick, I wasn't there, but is Eric intending on running for the position again in the future?
I don't really know. I mean, it's a pretty short term.
That's why I was asking.
I would assume. I mean, we didn't ask that question, but I would assume he probably.
That's great. So a motion on the floor by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, 3-0-0.
If you flip to tab 9E, you have a recommendation from the tax collectors. This is for tax collector deeds for the tax year 2018, the tax liens. You'll see that you have tax deeds for, that she is recommending tax deeding for 2018 liens. There's a slight change here. Map 6, Lot 77, Goffstown Back Road, that was paid in full, so that would come off of the recommendation. However, the tax collector is recommending to execute a tax deed or to make a decision to waive tax deed for map 16, lot 191A. And then she's also requested a 30-day extension for map 12, lot 15. And then for map 25, lot 47, we have a request for deed waiver and a payment arrangement that the property owner has signed.
Do we have copies of this?
They are in a separate folder. We took them out of the signature folder. They're in a completely separate folder in your meeting room.
Okay.
And if you wanted to talk about specifics on it, but I would ask that we do that in non-public.
Okay, I'm going to ask that, I think map 16, lot 191A-53, we talked about in non-public.
Okay.
Was that
Yep.
okay?
Yep, absolutely.
Other than that, we can go ahead with the rest of them.
I'll make a motion to approve the tax collector's recommendations as presented or as amended and sign any waivers, forbearance agreements.
I'll second that. So we're talking about map 12, lot 15.
That would be a 30-day extension. If not paid in full by October 29th, the tax collector would execute the tax deed.
And then map 25, lot 47.
That would be a deed waiver with a payment arrangement.
Okay, those are the two items we're talking about with this motion. Motion was by Mark, it was seconded by Jim. Everybody in agreement with that?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none, motion passes.
At tab 9F, you have a memo from the finance director. This is a request for budget transfer within the EMS fund. This was for the approved new hires for fire. That was voted at the June 28th meeting. This is primarily reassigning funds from the EMS part-time wage line to full-time wages, Medicare, and retirement.
Motion to approve the budget transfer request for the reallocation of $91,342 from the EMS part-time wages to the various EMS full-time wages lines as presented.
Second. Can you explain to me how this works?
So
Here
when,
she comes.
Good evening. Okay, so for this transfer, we were just looking at the 4 new positions that were added for the remainder of this year. And so we've totaled out those costs based on what we know their certification and pay is. And then we're reassigning from the part-time lines to the full-time wage lines.
And this comes out of the EMS fund?
It did this year. This is how it was proposed since we were adding mid-year, and that fund had underspent the part-time wages, which is where we were planning on paying those individuals from.
Normally, in a normal budget, how many positions are assigned to EMS?
It's not a number of positions, it's a number of hours that are allocated to EMS typically.
And that's determined how?
It's based on how many hours the fund can sustain, as well as how many hours are anticipated for EMS activity.
Not actual billable hours.
Correct, because that depends on the call volume.
And when they're not doing, most of our EMS are EMS firefighters, right?
A lot of them are combined. We do have more of our part-time folks that may be EMS only, but we do have a good number of them that are both.
Right. So the motion made by Mark is seconded by Jim. Any discussion? Any more questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. And we're gonna have public comment right now. Is there anybody here for public comment? It is 6:10. Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Derek, have you got much more, or should we just go?
I only had one more item
Why
at
don't you
tab
go ahead?
9G.
Go ahead, and we'll call the police chief up.
Okay. The town IT office needs to replace 2 firewalls. These are network security items that connect us to the state. This connects the police department and the town clerk's office. We currently have firewalls that they've been working for about the last year with the manufacturer to configure them in a manner. But we have many days where that connection with the state shuts down, and that impacts the police department as well as the town clerk's office for anybody doing motor vehicle registration, and it disrupts our customer service. So we're looking to replace those. In this case, we're asking to waive the RFP process because we want a specific item that will a specific type of firewall that will match up best with the state. We've talked to other towns as well as the state IT. So we're asking for a motion to waive the requirement for RFP in this case and authorize the town to purchase based on the quotes provided by vendors to help with this project. Our fear is if we put it out just for a generic firewall, that we're going to get multiple quotes and we're going to be comparing apples to oranges as we do with technology sometimes.
On the following page, these are the numbers we're looking for.
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
You know, the only problem I have with this is we're starting to see this, trying to supersede the purchasing policy almost on a weekly basis. Somebody's looking to not go through our purchasing program and asking to I'm trying to say how to explain this, but
To get waivers from the
yeah,
board.
it seems like we're almost on a weekly basis now, we're trying to do this instead of going through the policy.
And I think what we're seeing as department heads, and I can speak specifically for myself, is the $10,000 limit. Anything over $10,000 requires that RFP or RFQ. As prices are increasing, that ceiling hasn't changed in many years, but we're starting to see prices, especially with technology and some of the other projects, are starting to ratchet up pretty quickly. So I do have a suggested motion in here, or I guess some information asking if the select board would consider modifying the purchasing policy, and if you'd like, you could bring it back for another decision for technology. When it comes to network security, we do network security as well as technology purchases. We want to follow a pretty specific brand and model type to maintain what we have in-house. So, but if you'd like, what I could do is put I guess a more broad discussion with department heads at a future meeting about looking at what other towns, what other communities are doing for their quotes versus their blind bid processes.
We've had this conversation before,
We have.
probably on a yearly basis, and
Yep.
and it seems like the board had came up with that 10,000 policy and have kept it, and there's a reason for that, I believe, and I understand what you're saying in this particular case, and there are ways you can go out and get the best bid, but you have 4 quotes here, or 3 quotes?
There are from four different vendors.
Right. Isn't that the same thing as a request for proposal?
No, it is not, no.
There's
No.
a difference.
Bid, you're putting out the full bid package and you're saying it's here, it's due at noon, we're gonna do a public opening, we're gonna review it, versus calling different vendors saying, this is the project I'm trying to do, can you give me a quote for it? Which, I think it's a similar amount of legwork, but sometimes when you have the bid packages, sometimes you have a vendor that may choose not to submit. Yeah.
If that vendor chooses not to submit, maybe because he can't compete with the price, which is the reason why we have that bid process. So I just think it's becoming too common that we're doing this, like I say, almost on a weekly basis. And I think that we need to start ratcheting that down,
Okay.
going through the process until, and I understand what you're saying, bring it back up and maybe adjust the limits. But in the meantime, I think we need to try to stay at the policy that the select board has had in the past and has now enforced. I understand this one, this is kind of a critical thing, especially when we know what happened with Peterborough and things like that, I understand, but I think in the future, it's gonna have to be a really good reason to supersede our policies.
Absolutely, I understand. I'll pass that information along to the department heads. You will see in your packet tonight, there are 3 separate RFPs for departments that are going out, and we try and use state contracts when that's available to us, but that wasn't in this case.
Mark, did you make a motion?
I'll make a motion to waive the requirements for RFP process and authorize the town to purchase the required firewall replacement based on price quotes gathered from 4 network vendors. You want the quotes and their prices, or are we all set?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on it? Any more
Yeah,
questions? Jim,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Just kind of intrigued, at a certain cutoff, I assume it's not an 10,000 is not just an arbitrary cutoff. And I wonder if we should look at it, is that?
Well, that's what I just told Adam, Jesus, Tarek, that we need to take a look at. I think it was probably Adam the last time we talked about this.
So we are gonna, okay. you
Yeah,
said that,
that's
I
what we
missed
said.
that.
What we can do is we can reach out to the auditors. This is an old recommendation that came from the auditors many years ago. At one point, each department had different levels, and a few years ago, they were combined. Anything over 3,000, between 3,000 and 10,000 requires multiple quotes and documentation. It's anything over 10,000. We can talk to the auditors and also bring that back to the board to see what other communities are doing.
But inflation might have made it this $10,000 limit.
Too low, yeah, right, I agree.
Okay,
All right, so the motion's on the floor, Jim, you seconded it,
I
right?
did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none? Motion passes. Chief?
We're at tab 4A.
First up, Chief, would be the Highway Safety Committee recommendations.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, thank you, board, welcome. So, the Highway Safety Committee met a couple weeks ago. We had our first 25-mile-an-hour speed limit that we're gonna postpone to next year for the, what we talked about last year. This one in particular, Mr. Arnold came in to talk to us about his house on 121 Henry Bridge Road. If you're not familiar, as you're coming down Henry Bridge Road from the traffic circle, he's the first house on your right. Bless you.
Thank you.
His house is right on the road as the curve turns down. His house is right there. Some time ago, a vehicle went off the road, crashed into his fence. He has since now asked the Highway Safety Committee if we thought that we could do anything to help protect his home on Henry Bridge Road. He has asked us, there's a guardrail that comes down that curve that stops at a certain point, and he was wondering if the Highway Safety could make a recommendation to extend that guardrail past his front yard all the way to his driveway to hopefully protect as cars are coming down, if they slide in the winter or if they're going too fast, protect his house. He's afraid that eventually the car's going to go right off the road into the side of his house. The Highway Safety Committee kind of talked about it, and one of the things that we decided was to come in front of the board to ask the board if this is something that the board would want to spend taxpayer money to extend before we do engineering and pull all that other resources in to even look at it, to protect someone's home the house has been there, it's been established for quite some time, it's not a new home. He bought it a couple years ago, knew, as he says, that when I bought it, I knew what I was getting into, but didn't realize that a car would, eventually go right off to my front yard, into the fence. We don't know how much it's gonna cost, we were just kinda thinking as the board to kind of tap into the board here to see what you guys would think. If it's something that you're willing to talk about in the future, using taxpayer money to protect a private home. We certainly could go back as highway safety, talk about it, and get some engineers involved to look at what it would cost, price it out, and then come back and make a recommendation and come back to the board. While we were talking about this, I did bring up the fact that we just had a house on Henry Bridge Road, down the street over the bridge, that built a wall to protect their home. And I think most of the board members know what happened with that. It seemed like it went through some court battles and the wall came down. And, we were kind of talking about, we didn't propose a guardrail there or any of that nature. So that's just for you all to think about. So this is not really a recommendation, it's more of this is what we talked about, and we're just tapping into the board's thoughts here to see if it's something that you're willing to let us engage in, or if you feel like this is something that maybe is not worth using taxpayer money to protect one private home.
Go ahead, Jim, you have a question?
Yeah, is this, we're talking about one accident in how long a period of time?
Yeah, so I don't have the exact number, but to my knowledge, at least in the last 10 years, we haven't seen any accidents. We have accidents on the road. The majority of them are usually in the winter when, there's that road is pretty heavily traveled, but DPW has really worked hard at keeping that particular area salted pretty well, so it's bare pavement. It's a highly trafficked area. It's about 7,500 cars per day, and we're only seeing this one accident.
And you're doing,
Go ahead,
doing everything that you can to keep the public safe. It's just, this guy's one house, Mr. Arnold's one house, right? And that's,
Yeah,
measures are taken so that it is winter, and when it's winter, people slip, so you're taking care of all that. It's just, he's afraid that somebody else is gonna.
he's
That's the
worried
issue.
that when he looks at, when you're coming down the hill, it turns like this and comes back around, and his house sits right here. So his fear is that eventually a car at some point maybe is going to kind of go right through the side of his house. If we did extend the guardrail, I'm not an engineer, but just looking at it, thinking about it, if we did extend the guardrail to the front of his yard, his driveway is still wide open, and there is potential for a car to continue off that path. But certainly it's, the other option would be, as a highway safety, we tackle looking at this in a bigger perspective and seeing how many other houses in the community are affected by that, and whether that's something at a larger scale. But he brought it to our attention. We didn't feel at that point it was really something to look into on the thought of coming to you as a recommendation. My understanding is that guardrails could be a potential for some significant cost.
Mark, did you have anything? You were on highway safety.
Yeah, we pretty much had the chief said that discussion. I feel comfortable, let it be. I don't see why we spend money or why we should spend money for the one house. I mean, then if we get one house, then who knows how many more are gonna get on the bandwagon and join us. But right now, I mean, if we wanna wait, let the chief look at the history of how many accidents we had, but right now I'm in favor of doing nothing.
Mr. Chair, if I could add one more.
Go for it.
We did talk to him and saying that if it's something that at some point the town would not move forward with that, I believe Adam could send somebody out, maybe Eric, and look at some boundary lines and maybe help him map out our public easements, and if it's within where he needs to be, maybe he can, we talked about potentially getting some boulders, him getting boulders and having them put up on his property to help kind of add that barrier, but understandably having the town say, this is this far off the road, not on the pavement, but well into your road, this is 10 feet off the easement, you can place them here. We offered that up as a suggestion as well.
Well, I grew up in Grassmere and been up and down that hill. I can't count how many times, and I don't remember any accidents. slip and slide going up a little bit, but you
Sure.
were always pretty cautious coming down.
Yeah.
So I would have to go with Mark's saying that at this time, I don't think we should consider doing that.
Very well. We'll reach
Need
out.
that
to
as a motion, Derek,
That would
or?
be helpful, yes.
Okay.
I'll make that motion that we not do anything at this time till a later date.
With regard to 121 Henry Bridge Road,
Yes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim, to not do anything at this time. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll reach out and let them know. Second one here, again, is more of a 176 Mountain Base Road. This is Bethany, who, she lives, when you come into Mountain Base Pond, there's the park area, there's the beach. She lives past that, across, past the boat launch into the woods. She's the only, I guess, the last house besides the camps. Earlier this year, she had some issues with people parking, as we talked about last year, but now parking actually on the road towards her house on the right-hand side towards the water that were obstructing her driveway. She came in to see what the highway safety could do as far as putting no parking signs up. I expressed to her that we had the town ordinance that we rechanged last year with keeping it on one side. Through a little bit of research, we determined that in Mountain Base Pond, that's considered a parking area. There is a town ordinance that governs the parking in that area. The town ordinance reads that parking will be parked in the designated parking spots. Unfortunately, there are no designated parking spots in Mountain Base area, as there are tree roots and potholes and other areas. So most people have kind of just figured out where they need to park, and unfortunately, they're parking kind of right in front of her driveway area. Rightfully concerned, to get fire apparatus or police in there, it'd be a difficult task. We've advised her to maybe reach out to Rick and the commission to see if that's something, considering it's their purview, that maybe they could put some signage up or repaint some designated parking spots. We can't do much of enforcement when there's no designated parking spots. So I believe Rick and the commission are gonna be looking at that and potentially fixing that or resolving that for her.
So you threw this over to Parks and Rec to take care of?
We did, as a highway safety board, we did.
Rick's over there, yay!
And she was grateful
Be
that.
over there with Felix the painter, paint the line once a week.
Get your little machine out.
Yeah, that's Felix.
That's Felix?
She was thankful that we had the conversation, but we didn't bring any recommendations on this other than we've already passed it over to Parks and Recs. So
We addressed this, somebody last year or the year before, they wanted to have parking on both sides, and
year
we
that
said
was
no.
last year. Yep.
One side, so
We fixed that.
I
and,
think we should just leave that at that. I don't think that needs a motion, because
no,
we've already got that there.
all set for the next. So the next request here is every year we apply for our New Hampshire Highway Safety Grants. This year for the remainder of 2021 into 2022, we were awarded $12,723 in funding. This funding was for speed enforcement, distracted driving, and mobilization to include texting and other traffic-related issues. So I'm requesting that the board accept this grant on our behalf.
What was the total again, I'm sorry?
$12,723.
Motion?
I'll make a motion, we allow grant that was presented to the Goffstown Police Department in the total of $12,723 for speed enforcement, as you call it.
Distraction,
Yeah.
mobilization.
Your motion is to accept that money, right?
Yep.
I'll second that.
Any discussion, Jim, go ahead.
When I read this, I said, what actually is speed, distracted driving, and mobilization? What do you spend the money on?
I'm sorry?
What does that actually mean? speed,
So
mobilization?
they give certain grants out throughout the year. So some are speed enforcement, so they'll specifically allocate funding to our agency in relates to speed. Any kind of speeding issues, so if we're having complaints, as we are right now, on Tibbetts Hill Road with speeding. We will have grant funding money now to send that up, send officers up there and have basically more directed patrols for speeding issues. Same thing with distracted driving. We have people out here text messaging or, essentially distracting, so we're gonna focus specifically on distracted driving. Mobilization, same thing, seatbelts or other issues that are related to traffic-related
Is
issues.
that like education stuff?
Sure, well, it's not necessarily, we're not doing any proactive education more than we're out there enforcing certain motor vehicle laws, red lights issues, stop sign violations. They also put out DWI grant money, they put out DWI checkpoint grant money. These are the three that we are awarded.
Okay.
So essentially, it's mostly any kind of traffic violation, but specifically when it gets to speed, distraction, and mobilization, we're looking at speed and distracted driving and or traffic stop lights or stop signs, so.
Okay, motion by Marco, seconded by Jim. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? Motion passes.
And the next issue here was that, as you all know, we are fighting this battle of our failing radio system. We were presented with, as you know, we had a consultant that we've been working with to kind of lead us down the path of what's wrong with our system. We had a report that was written that we presented to the board, non-public, that I have now since redacted, that if the board desires, I can make it public. And essentially, we're learning that our radio system that is essentially for our police, fire, EMS is in critical failure. A lot of this radio system is so antiquated that we are losing critical equipment that is not being manufactured. We can't find parts to fix it. We're constantly buying parts on eBay and Amazon and sourcing them from Craigslist to try to fix different components of our radio system. Since we've learned this information, we've engaged in this same consultant radio expert to essentially help us through the process of creating or designing a new system. So we're presenting in front of the board an RFP to put out and essentially have other companies come in and from the very top to the very bottom design a new whole system for us. One that will bring in new equipment and dispatch, infrastructure as far as antennas, tower systems, portable radios, mobile radios in our cruisers, and basically make it scalable for the future. We're finding that we need expert opinions outside of our agency to help us with this. My understanding is that back in 2008 when we did an upgrade, RFP for that upgrade was 4 pages, this one's 35 pages. It is in depth, and it's, in my opinion, without being a radio expert, it's covering a lot of what we need to get this upgrade. Now, of course, I presented this to CIP. I don't have a number, and that's why we're putting this RFP out, so we can try to get a number of how much it would cost to build this system.
And you're looking to do this next year's budget, is that what you're looking for, or a bond, or we don't know?
Well, we don't
We
know
don't
yet, and
know
that's
dollar
something that I
amount.
would love to, once we figure out what the dollar amount would be, to start working with the board and the budget committee, Derek, and just kind of see what the best approach is for the citizens. Now, if you ask me how, if I would have it my way, yes, I would love to get this thing replaced completely and done next year, but I also understand that this potentially has, to be in the millions of dollars. If it's something that the board is looking down the road to bond it or taking the 3-year steps, we can work with our vendor, our consultant. He did say that there's a potential we could do it over a 2 to 3 year process if we're making sure that we're getting the right pieces in the right place at that time. But with that being said, we know that we might pick off one problem, but we still have other problems that at any moment, if it does fail, we're in a tough situation.
What does this do for our customers?
Our customers, as far as the ones that contract with us,
Right.
well, it will help at least have newer technology that when it doesn't fail, we can actually communicate with them. I know, I don't want to speak too much about some of their technologies, but one of our customers, when we dispatch to them, it's going through a fiber connection to their infrastructure and then going out. So that particular customer, if we bought all this infrastructure, would not help them because they have their own. Other communities that they use our infrastructure, so it would help them greatly.
So they wouldn't be required to upgrade their systems in order to work with us?
There is another town that we have as a customer that has to upgrade their system for themselves, yes. Our system is for us only. They have their own radio towers out in their other community. One community that contracts for us, they use our infrastructure because that's an agreement we've had in the past with them. So this would benefit our town, our fire, and our police department. So no, they wouldn't need to upgrade.
They would not need to upgrade in order to communicate with us.
No, but some other communities are in dire need to upgrade their.
I understand, but I'm just,
Yeah.
I would hate to say, oh, we can't do it anymore because your system doesn't work with our system.
I think the idea is that as we upgrade, we let them know that this is what we're going to, but from my understanding, again, not being the radio guy, one of our customers goes straight through a fiber network to their towers, and that's their infrastructure. So that radio communication goes through the internet and broadcasts up. Another customer, I believe, we bounce to one of their repeaters and goes out that way. But we could upgrade our stuff, but their equipment needs to be upgraded as well for them.
Okay.
But this is something that we need to do for ourselves, whether we have customers or not.
We're just going up to an RFP, I mean,
Yeah.
we're not saying we're gonna buy it, we're just gonna say, tell us how much it's gonna cost.
I just
That's
heard-
the next step, I mean.
Go ahead.
This is the actual RFP that's in your packet, right?
Yes.
And that's gonna go out right away, do you know how long the turnaround would be?
So the plan, if you look at page 35, is we're trying to get this out. If it's approved, we'll try to get it out hopefully tomorrow or the next day. The plan is to have a site visit with our consultant plus a representative from Goffstown Fire and Goffstown Police on October 6th. So the vendors can come out and look at each site we have. They can look at all our tower sites, our repeater sites, our summit tower, our local police department tower, fire department's tower, and see what it is. They're also then gonna start to design, maybe these sites aren't the best spots, design their own system. And then hopefully, if everything works out right, by November 5th, all bids and proposals will be submitted no later than noon on November 5th, and then we open them up.
Missed that.
The idea is we're gonna try to get it at that point, see what the pricing is. We also have the ability to apply for a New Hampshire emergency management grant to help us offset some of this cost. We've talked to our rep, and she's been pretty helpful for us as well. But that comes in a very closed window in December, so we're trying to get this bids in by November 5th. Hopefully bring it to the board to kind of talk about where we're at, and if the board's willing to work if we go bond or we go however we do it, at least we can start to work towards a grant as well for December.
I don't think giving people less than, or just giving them a week to get out here and do all that is fair. October 6th is next week.
The idea is to bid it and then have them
You're
come out
missing the
for a
point. You're telling these people they have a week to get out here and do it. Some companies may not be able to get somebody out here that quick and do that kind. You may be limiting the amount of people you get. I don't think that's fair to give people a week's notice to get out on site and check this out.
Okay.
That's my own personal opinion. It's an awful short time.
Yeah, it's next Wednesday.
Go ahead, Jim.
Can just, I know probably, I don't know what the preference is gonna be, because we don't know what the cost is gonna be, but this RFP, I've heard people kind of floating around, you could do it piecemeal if it came to that, depending on price and things like that. Is the RFP, is it, can you break it down into, you know, to install if finances require that. I assume that this is for the whole kit and caboodle, this is, right?
Derek, can you help me with that? My
Maybe
thought,
it's picking too much.
my thought is that they can break it down to say, this is the price of this infrastructure versus, like an antenna, your towers versus your radio system that's in dispatch, the radios themselves. The way I was told by our consultants, they break down the cost of all of it. So we could basically say, all right, we know that our critical infrastructure right now is an antenna on the mountain. So if we want to work towards doing that year one, and that's going to cost us,
Okay.
$300,000, I don't know, whatever it costs. We can try that, but
No, and I just want to know if there's more options, just because we don't know what's coming down the pike. Kind of just have that in your head, I guess.
yeah.
That kind of piecemealing is kind of a shot in the dark, like you said. If something dies in the meantime, then, what do? Stop what you're doing and go fix the other thing? I don't know if that's, piecemealing should be an option. I really don't.
I don't either, but I don't think we should take it out the table, just because we don't know.
We did the same thing a few years ago with the fields out at the new fields. We said, we don't think piecemealing it over a few years was a good idea, and we just went and did it all at once. I think that was the right thing to do, Rick.
Yes. Thank you, by the way.
Well, I
But
think
that's what this board decided to do, and I think that's the right way to do it, instead of trying to piecemeal something.
I know you do, but I'm just saying, if it's possible to put it all in, it might be prudent to do it, to at least have that in mind. And I kind of agree with you, but I think it's also,
Can I ask a clarifying question? Are you suggesting or asking if, when we get this back, it's gonna be a total price and that's all we know? Or are you asking, is this total price of, we'll just, for the
well, is
sake
there
of our...
will there be flexibility in here that if we have to do something like that? And I don't know anything about the system either, but I remember that we were talking about this when we had a guy in a few months ago, and he did talk about, this is what you need first, and then, if you wanted to, you can put the rest in later. I think
Right.
he already knew that.
Yeah.
So
And he's
I-
designed sites, radio systems in New Hampshire already. And I think the idea is, he's recognizing that there's a bigger cost to the taxpayer, and if the town needed to, we could probably break it up in certain pieces.
And I'm not advocating for that.
Sure.
I guess I beat that to death already, so.
No, I understand what you're saying, but if the RFP's not written to be done in phases, is it?
Okay.
Not to my
I don't
understanding.
think so.
This- My
Okay.
understanding is,
So- But that's what I'm saying, I mean,
this was them to show us the entire system from the ground all the way up to the antennas with everything that we needed to start tomorrow from a brand new system, if we were to, get it approved.
so, just to go on Jim's point, would it be advantageous for us to say we want to do it in phases? Or to break it out, the RFP in phases, get a price to do it once, get a price to do it in 3 phases? I mean, is that the right way to go, do you think? Personally, I'm not a bit in favor of doing things in phases, because it always comes back to bite you in the arm.
Well, I'm gonna be selfish in the sense and say that if I had my wish, and I'm sure the fire chief will say this as well, if we have the ability to get a number and figure out a way to get it all done in one time, that's what we would definitely do. Obviously, if the number is just really, again, we're gonna have multiple bids here, so we'll be able to see it. I'm the consultant, that he has said to us that there is a way that we can look at it and break it up. The other thing that I'm not 100% sure about is if you do it all in 1 year, can you pay for it over the course of 3 years through CIP or bonding? That's a whole other, conversation that, we can talk about when we get the numbers. But the idea here is getting us a full number of how much it would cost.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying, Chief, is that I'm concerned that we go out with this and then you come back and say, oh, we gotta do it in phases. So then we have to go back out again, okay, we wanna do this in phases, because most people, it's a better deal to do it once than it is to do it in phase because of moving in and out and things like, at least that's what DPW tells us, it's easier just to move in once instead of in and out, so.
Well, I mean, you've heard it, I'll say it again. My preference, and I'm sure the fire chief will agree, that we're looking to get this thing fixed and really be part of the state of the art before we have any major catastrophic failure and somebody gets hurt.
You're not answering my question, that's okay.
I would prefer to go
All right,
not
just say it that
phased,
way.
not phased, and just go straight
All
out
right.
and get it.
Go ahead, Mark.
Good evening, Chief. So I read the proposal pretty much front to back. I have a couple of questions we're gonna go through. I know you probably won't like that, Peter, but we're gonna go through. Under systems review, project overview, okay, under 1.1.1, it says, the town of Goffstown wants to be able to reuse equipment from this upgrade. Can you explain to me that? Are we going to pick old equipment that's currently up and try to mix that stuff with the new stuff, or are we just going,
What's the number?
it's right in the very beginning,
Page 4.
page 4, it's the system overview, project overview. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines down, Chief. It starts off with the town of Goffstown wants to be able to.
And maybe if we give the chief a moment to search for that, Mr. Chairman, we do have a public hearing
All right,
scheduled.
6:45.
6:45.
I'll be pushed over to the side here.
For tab 6.
Okay, it is 6:45, and we do have a public hearing. In accordance with New Hampshire RSA 41:14-B, the Select Board is conducting this public hearing to accept public input on 2 proposed ordinances. First one would be the waterfront and East Union Sewer Pump Station Ordinance. The purpose of this ordinance is to promote a more orderly use of the waterfront area and sewer pump station located at 27 East Union Street, tax map 34, lot 177, to include the parking area along the waterfront access road. It is intended to eliminate alcohol use within the waterfront area, restrict usage times, littering, and glass containers. Do you want to take these one at a time? Do you want to do them both?
You can do both at the same time.
Okay. The waterfront at the Parks and Recreation Building Ordinance. The purpose of this ordinance is to promote a more orderly use of the waterfront area of the Parks and Rec Building located at 155 South Mass Street, tax map 31, lot 19, to include the waterfront access road. It is the intent to eliminate alcohol use within the waterfront area, restrict usage times, littering, and glass containers. This is the second public hearing on these ordinances. The Select Board's vote shall take place no sooner than 10 days, no later than 21 days after the second public hearing is held, in accordance with New Hampshire RSA 41:14-B. And I'll open up the public hearing. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak? Don't all speak at once. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Again, this will be up for a vote no later than 10 days, no later than 21 days after the second public hearing is held in accordance with RSA 41:14-B. And that should be what date?
October 18th.
October 18th. When do we want to have discussion on, then?
Yeah, normally you do it on the night that you vote unless
Okay.
you had any questions.
Oh, no, we did have some public comment last time,
Yes, you did. Yep.
you know, so I just do want to wait to discuss that. Can we get that, those public comments
Yes, yep,
for that meeting so we can have to discuss?
absolutely. I'll pull those from the minutes and get those up.
Okay. We're back to the chief?
All right, Selectman Lemay, I think to answer your question,
And just clarification so that
right,
I understand that a little bit better.
we are not intending as an agency to use any of our antiquated systems
Okay.
at all. I believe this is saying that as we build this, we want to reuse the new equipment if we tend to move to a new location.
All right,
So they're saying
Understood.
we're reusing equipment from this upgrade, such as the analog repeaters, the voters, the simulcast controllers, for any potential future upgrade to any other P25 networks or from the same vendor. The idea is we're not looking to use the old stuff. This is to reuse equipment from this upgrade. So when they upgrade this and redo it, if we have to move to a
So if we
different
build a new
location,
police station next
Right.
door,
we're
that's
gonna
all.
try to take it with
that's
us.
all
Or
covered.
if we need to add on to the system
Yep.
for any reason, we're using this same repeater. So if we have a repeater site out in the east parts and we need to add another, we need to move it, we can use this equipment and move it. We're not intending to use anything, to my understanding,
Okay.
unless it's like within the last year or two that we
Okay,
bought.
Mark, go ahead.
Then the next one is on the next page of 5 of 35, Chief. It says, the town of Goffstown will provide existing buildings and the structures for antenna mountings. However, if the vendor, through engineering, the system believes adding and deleting current system sites is beneficial, they must propose those as part of the proposal. So basically, if we have to build a new tower, or if we have something that needs to come up, that new tower is going to come into this bid. It
Yes.
won't affect the town, we won't be asked for that, correct?
In addition to is what you think you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah,
I believe they're asking the vendor to propose that.
Right,
If they say you need to put a new tower in, they're
Right.
gonna propose it.
So that's exactly it. So we're looking for, if they say, listen, your current site out in the east part is not
Yep.
working, we're saying that you'll have better reception if you put it on the Dumbarton, the hill,
Yep.
Yakum Hill or something.
Yep, yep.
Over here.
Yep.
And we're gonna say, okay, we don't have a building or a tower. Tell us how much it's gonna cost to erect a tower.
Part of the proposal.
Right.
Okay.
We wanna have the entire number so when we're sitting in front of the board.
Soup to nuts.
Right, we wanna know. We don't wanna say it's $800,000, but if we built a tower, it's another, $1 million. We wanna know what it is. If they're building and redesigning a site, a network for us in an entire radio system, we wanna know everything.
Okay, gotcha. Next question is on page 7 of 35. It says the sites will be equipped with the following alarms: high temp, low power, generator, battery, or complete failure, antenna feed lines, PA failure, or degradation. With the older generators that we currently have now at station 17, 18, and 19, 18 is pretty new, but one of the issues we would have when the system wouldn't start is we had low oil pressure or cold antifreeze temperatures. I don't know if these are just things that we picked to put in there, but can we add or just make sure that the low oil is there, and temperature, the temperature coolant is there, won't freeze? I just want to make sure that we don't have any issues with that, being familiar with what we had in the past.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that was telling us we would get an alarm if our radio system was having any of those issues.
Okay,
And I think that, to resolve that issues right now, when we have a failure in our radio system, we have no idea
Yeah.
something's
Yeah.
happening other than it's not working.
yeah.
This will help us understand exactly what's going on. I'll take a look at that and see
Yeah.
what the town has to say.
That's just under the spec of the generator, whoever doing it. You're not proposing a generator, or you will? You don't know if they will?
Our system that we're looking at here, I believe we listed that we're gonna use our same sites and generators in buildings, unless they're saying, going
Okay,
off-site, we need a new generator.
That generator's not that old anyway, is it?
No, the one at
The tower.
yeah, the tower is not very old. The one at 18's relatively
No,
pretty.
but that's not, I think when we're talking generators here, we're talking generator at the tower, right?
Yep.
Not at each fire station or,
Well, we're looking at making sure that all of our repeater sites are backed up. Most of them are, so, and I'll just say it publicly. 18 is, ours is, Mountain View's is, I gotta check if St. A's is, and then is 17 generator backed up? Yep.
Yeah, it is.
And
We
then,
have,
I don't think Stonebridge's is, but.
and the last question is on page 19 of 35. Warranty and maintenance personnel. Can we, when we get the bid and when we get the proposal, can we have a copy of everybody's certificate saying that they are certified to work on this? And in case there's any questions down the road, we'll have a copy of that. That's the last question I have. Other than that, I think the bid was put together very well. I think it's gonna be a vast improvement of what we had or what we have now. My final thought is, I'll be in favor of doing it in one lump sum. Just start now and go, because I've seen in the past, dealing with Manchester, the prior department I used to work with, when they put something together, if they wait 3 years, some of the parts don't line up, and they have issues with it, and it takes another month or two to get it lined up so that it'll work. Buy it all at once, put it all together, and that's my final word. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, did somebody make a motion?
Make a motion that the RFP, with
Go
correct.
forward with the RFP.
Yeah, if corrections are gonna be applied, go forward with the RFP, for the new radio system for the town of Goffstown.
Second.
You got that, Derek?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion passes 3-0, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next up is Fire Station 18 Site Investigation Work Plan.
Evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. A few weeks back, one of the department head updates, I notified the board that we had been working with a third party to move forward a proposal to handle a DES mandate that we got put on us, and I'll just kind of give you a quick background. So in May of 2019, we were contacted by DES of some chemicals that are found in firefighting foam in groundwater downstream from the Church Street station. We gathered all the information that they requested at that time, submitted it to DES, contacted us back earlier this year, telling us that we needed to perform a site investigation, which includes drilling of test wells on site and a variety of different things. We went on and did some research and found that several departments around the state are being contacted by DES with this exact same issue, including the New Hampshire Fire Academy, and the Fire Academy and many other departments that contracted with an engineering firm out of Concord, New Hampshire. So that's kind of the direction we went in as well, because they had an established procedure with DES. They submitted a plan to DES on our behalf, which DES has recently accepted. And I'm here this evening to see if we can get the board's approval to move forward with that site investigation officially.
Is this another case where we didn't go out for a proposal, we just gave it to this company because they're doing it for somebody else?
We went on the recommendation of the New Hampshire Fire Academy, who has established a relationship
Okay,
with
didn't
them.
answer my question directly, though.
No, we did not.
Okay.
Both other ones. More than happy to. Now
Oh, I just pointing out there's another particular case where we're not following our procedure. Okay, and when will this happen?
They're recommending starting drilling the test wells in November.
And the cost?
It is, the estimate that came back was almost $26,000.
22,000?
26,000?
26,000?
Broken up.
It's on page, what, 2 or 3?
Page 2 of 3 of the,
$25,825.65, is that the
There it
number?
is, yeah.
it's on the memo, it says proposal for environmental site investigation.
And where's this coming from?
So we have savings in, currently in the insurance line. We've also got, it looks like we're gonna have about $10,000 savings in the CCTV, CIP line as well, that will be underspent there. I know that I have savings in our building and assessing. We've had a bit of a vacancy in a couple of those spots. So we do know that there are some savings in those items, and then we can bring the exact where they're gonna come from. The other option would be to delay and include this as part of next year's annual budget.
And the fire department hasn't the funds to pay for this?
We have funds, we'd have to go through with Derek and Danielle to see where we could get those funds from.
And how hard a case are they on? I mean, are they calling you saying, when you gonna do this, when they gonna do this, or?
No, I think the DES has actually been fairly flexible with us as far as they want to make sure that we have a plan in place. We are moving forward with this site investigation, and as long as we have a plan to move forward, I think they're willing to work with us.
Well, my 2 cents? Put it in next year's budget. That's my 2 cents.
Can I ask?
Go ahead, Jim.
You said that other towns are going through this process, or have been through this process.
Yes.
Just curious, has any town been nailed for costs for, if there's findings of problems?
Yes,
They have, expensive?
yes.
We could be looking at something really expensive coming down the road.
I think the one fortunate thing is in the village area, we are serviced by the village water precinct. PFAS is a big problem with wells. So in this immediate area, there's not many that use wells for drinking water, where that's the biggest concern with the PFAS. So
That is DES's biggest concern is and I would say just from the historical information I was able to obtain, there was not a lot of training done at that site. There was certainly foam stored there, that's what we used forever.
I think the point Derek is just making though is there may not be a contamination problem with any local wells that would require digging new wells or something like, is that right?
Correct, and I think that's what the town administrator was saying, and some of the other towns, that is exactly the case, there is contamination in wells.
Right.
I think our risk in this area is pretty minimal.
Like I said, personally, I'd like to put this in the next year's budget. It's a large $26,000.
would it please the board if we brought back the exact lines where we're pulling from, or where we would pull from in this budget? And then allow you to see exactly what that proposal is versus, and then you can make the decision whether or not you wanted it next year's?
Sure, that's fine. My problem with that is when we do that, we distort the numbers that we used to build the budget this year by taking stuff that was not even budgeted. And we're gonna be doing the same thing over here. And when you do that, it distorts your budget from this year when you're looking for, set it for next year. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
You may not use all your money, but you're gonna show it being used.
Yep. I know exactly what you said, yep.
So, excuse me, I would appreciate having that come back to us.
Yeah, we can show you exactly where
At the
we have
next meeting.
savings that we think that we could account for it in this year's budget. Absolutely.
And if you think it's that critical, I'd even be willing to take a look at it Monday night.
Okay.
If you think it's that critical that we get going on this.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'll meet with the town administrator this week.
Okay.
Just to kind of give the board an update, while we're talking about budget, our fire department's overall appropriation is in good shape. I did want to be fully transparent with the board as far as with regards to overtime this year. That line is being overspent at this time due to a variety of reasons. We've had people out on COVID leave, we had 2 people out on long-term work-related injuries. We've had a couple of people leave with no notice, which puts us behind the 8 ball right away. And on top of that, our department has over 600 hours of unused time as of this morning. Those are just some of the reasons why that line's overspent, but the overall appropriation is well within where we should be at this part of the year.
But didn't you say a few weeks ago that it was the part-time line was underspent?
Part-time line, absolutely underspent.
Okay.
And that's where we'll end up with a shift. I'm working with the town administrator and the finance director, but
All
I
right.
just wanted to put it out there now.
All right,
Okay?
thank you. The next up would be Parks and Rec Director.
Yes, we're at tab 7A, your packet.
Which one do you want me to talk about?
The electronic message center is the first item in the packet.
Okay, very good. So before you, you have a RFP for a electronic message center. which is coming out of the 2021 capital improvement plan, approved plan. And this is, we're going to use the, in our purchasing policy, 4.2 selective bid process, RFP process. It seems like that would be the best means to use to seek contractors to do this job. It's kind of a tricky little niche. Electronic message centers, and kind of finding a lot about it, and there's a lot of nuances within each different product. So that's why we came up with this idea to have a design build type of concept. Overall, what we'd be looking at doing is like a single pole with a double-sided message center on both sides, and then have it all electronically so we can do it from inside the building and everything. This sign will be used for anybody that wants to use it for messaging. You all have messages you want to get out there, the community, etc. So it'll be a very versatile tool for the community.
What's Parks and Rec going to use it for?
For notification of all our programming, when the pool will be open, if the pool's going to be closed, basketball registration, everything like that, all our programming. And then also I do see it as an integral piece for getting information about, travel soccer. Anyone, we get calls all the time, even though it's not directly our program, but we get the calls. So I don't see a problem with helping out the community. You guys have messages you want to get out about special meetings, whatever, use it.
What was the cost?
We got a cost of like $26,800, and that includes.
That's just an estimate, right? We haven't gone out to bid yet.
Yes, you're correct. I think it's pretty good estimate. What we will be doing is using revolving fund monies to supply power, because we have to have power to get to that. So there's a telephone pole right in the location where this will go. So we'll do a drop down and have the power come in from there, and that will be revolving fund monies.
This is in your CIP for this year,
Yes, it is.
at that amount?
At 26.8, I believe.
28.8.
28.8.
28.8.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Don't get carried away. I know how you operate, you'll use it all. Any discussion, comments, motion? Jim, you making a motion?
If you're ready, Margaret, because I'm.
Motion to approve the Parks and Recreation
Here it is.
Electronic Message Center digital design build for the RFQ or RFP.
I got it now, second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Thank you.
Next is the electric.
Yeah, this one is kind of, as I came to you the other day in our department updates, I told you that I had some bad news, and the bad news is basically our three-phase power supply service box is burnt up. So it's shut down. We don't technically need that power until next May, June, around there. Looking at it and reviewing it, looking at our current year's budget, we will have some unassigned funds, mainly through our part-time salaries. We did not fulfill quite a few of our positions there. And then in our contract service line, because of still the COVID concern from January to June, we didn't run a lot of certain programming, so there's monies in there. What I did is to get a good ballpark of what this would cost, the gentleman, the contractor that was installing the CCTV system, gave me an estimate of, it was like $20,000 to do the job. What has to be done is, unfortunately, it's an antiquated system. So you have to run the power from the pole, you have to run new conduit, you have to ditch 3 feet all the way over to the building, and you have to put in a new meter, you have to put in a new service box, etc. Because nothing is to code. He did ask me, is this something that you want to just leave as, you know, a 200 amp service, which it is right now, or do you want to increase it for greater power for the future? And I said, no, I would do it just for current usage. Because you can't, if we were to go with the new pool, the whole new thing, you have to tear the building down. You can't take this equipment with you. It's basically done. So that's why I said just leave it as is. So it's roughly about a $20,000 job. And that's how I built the bid request, is based on all that integral detail for that. Could we possibly save some monies and we do our own 3-foot trench?
I saw him raise his hand, you're all set.
Yeah, you know, Mike and I, we can get some banjos going and we can do it, you're right. And, you know, little things like that. So, you know, you might get it down to 17, something like that. But in this bid, I incorporated to do the whole thing. And, yeah.
We haven't decided, but I haven't seen what we're doing with the pool and how we're going to handle that situation. And that'll be coming up in the next month, right?
Can you say, Danielle, where that is in CIP, or Rick, which year that was in?
2023.
So that was in the,
Next year is 2022. 2023.
so it's in the approved CIP matrix for 2023.
So we're going to spend $20,000 potentially. That's in a year later. We're going to be doing it all over again anyway.
Or
Would
you
you
shut the
agree?
pool, or you shut the pool down for a
No,
year
no, I'm not
until we
going to
do
do
it.
that. Jeez, that-
I'm just saying.
put your
that's-
head in the block over here.
Well, I didn't know where you're going with that statement.
No, I'm just saying, we're spending good money into bad because
Absolutely,
that's the potential that that $20,000 will just be redone
absolutely.
in 2023.
You're right.
Partly. I think that there is some factors, like the conduit that's laid to the pool house that would remain, and the transformer, I believe, that Eversource places, that would remain as well, but you may have to extend that conduit or something. It wouldn't necessarily be the full $20,000.
But you're assuming that the electrical connections are going to come into the same place, and so.
No, you might have to move, that's what I'm saying. The electrical connections may need to move, but it wouldn't be running all the way like it is now from basically the pole to the building.
The transformer would stay up there either way anyway.
Right, yeah, and the conduit, as I understand it, Eversource determines what that diameter is, and now they require, I think it's a 5-inch conduit. So all of that would be laid would be up to code and able to expand. It's just where we put the new building potentially, or if you need more power, you may have to extend some things.
It's banjos, buddy. Start today, you have it done next spring.
And, you know, the thing is, what I was doing is putting it forward for this year. If we can make it happen, great. Hopefully we can. If you can find somebody to do that, I don't know.
Okay. Questions? Mark? Motion?
I move to approve the Bernard's Pool 3-phase electrical service RFP.
Wow.
Second.
Seconded by Mark. Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Is that it, Rick?
The last
I guess I
item,
got another one here.
yeah, the last item Rick has is resident, or Kathy Langlois and her husband Tom have worked with the Parks and Rec Department as well as the Parks and Rec Commission to donate a custom-built park bench at the waterfront, at Glen Lake waterfront. Has an approximate value of $2,000. Rick would install the concrete that it would be installed on and be bolted to, but they're looking to donate that to the town. You have a design and kind of what it would look like in your packet. But as a donation, the board would have to accept that if you wanted to.
Mark or Jim, one of you guys?
I'll make a motion, we accept the donation of the park bench with an estimated value of $2,000 in accordance with New Hampshire RSA 31:95-E, and that's the residents Kelly Langlois, Kathy Langlois.
Second that.
Okay, motion by Mark, seconded by Jim to accept the donation of a park bench valued at $2,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you very much.
Who's that masked man in the back? Good evening, Adam.
How are you? All right, a couple items tonight. The first one, remember we purchased a new excavator about a month and a half ago. As part of that, we had a couple recommendations or a couple bids that included a trade-in allowance. We thought we might be able to do better with Municipid online auction, so the board gave us permission to get that listed. We did have it listed on Municipid for a couple weeks. That closed at 2:30 last Thursday. We received 62 bids. Some of those, of course, are people bidding against somebody that bid over them, but I think it was about a dozen, maybe 15 individual different bidders. We spent a couple $100 on Facebook to try to boost the advertisement net that we cast. And we ended up with a winning bid of $28,600, which is a couple grand over our reserve amount that we had set, as we had discussed previously. I set that exactly at the amount that was offered by the winning bidder for the sale of the excavator, so figured hopefully we would do just at least that well. Thought we, to be honest, I thought we might do a little bit better than 28.6, but kind of talking with some folks that may or may not have bid on something like this, a few indicated that as a wheeled machine, that's sort of a niche item. A lot of the contractors right now are looking for tractor machines that can be off-road and clearing house lots, that sort of thing. So for a wheeled machine, there's a pretty good resale market for municipalities and other utilities that are in the street constantly, but apparently it doesn't garner quite as much as a tractor machine would have. But nonetheless, still I think we made out pretty well. So with the board's permission, I'd like to recommend awarding sale of the 2004 Volvo EW 180B excavator to GCES Equipment of Anaheim, California
Gonna drive it there, Pete?
for $28,600 and authorize the chair to sign the paperwork.
I'll make the recommendation, award the sale of the 2004 Volvo EW 180B excavator to GCES Equipment of Anaheim, California for $28,600, authorizing the chair to sign the paperwork.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, thank you. Just one other item. For the Goffstown purchasing policy, occasionally there are emergency purchases that have to be made. If the purchasing policy states that if a department head has to make an emergency purchase at the next available board meeting, we should apprise the board of why. We had an issue almost 2 weeks ago. Our normal pipe supplier, Core in Maine, who we typically purchase our ABS polyethylene plastic pipe for drainage projects, went to pull pipe that we had ordered and realized when they went to pull the pipe from their stockyard that it was not perforated pipe, which is what we needed. 6-inch perforated drain is what we use for our under drains to keep the water out from under the roadbed. So when they pulled it, it was all solid pipe. So we had two choices. We could either take it and drill a bunch of holes in it at own time and cost, which I'm just kidding, we wouldn't have done. But unfortunately, they couldn't get it short turnaround. This pipe was needed for the Pershing Street project kickoff and Pine Hill, which both started last week. So the choice was either delay the project a couple weeks to come to the board and see if you wanted to go sole source somewhere that could find it, or try to sole source it short notice. So Core in Maine didn't have it, couldn't get it short turnaround, and weren't sure when. We tried J. Allen Fowler, which is another ADS pipe vendor. They couldn't find it either. EJ Prescott was able to locate some, so we had a shipment from them. Final cost for that pipe, it was 3 pallets, which is, I think, just shy of 2,000 feet. 13,845 was the final amount, but in order to not slow down those two critical projects at a tough time of year. If it was May and we were having that problem, I'd juggle stuff around, but being September, we're already pushing our luck, I think, with trying to get a couple of good-sized projects done, so.
So what's the difference in price?
I'd have to go look at the actual footage that those 3 pallets represented. We will end up using, so we have locked in some pricing with Core & Main. They still haven't delivered all of the pipe that we bought before the pricing jumped. I think a couple months ago I came to you and let you know it was a deadline deal that we had made. I think it's going to be probably about 40% higher in the end, but this is pipe that we would have bought after these 2 projects for the next project. So whenever the Core & Main pipe comes, at the price we have, it'll be just which one we bought first kind of scenario. So not fortunate, but we were happy to get it and not have to come to the board explaining why we couldn't start those 2.
Anybody got any questions?
Okay.
Seeing none.
All right.
You
Thanks
made
all.
the purchases. Can't tell you no now.
Don't like to do this one very often.
We're just gonna take it out of your pay, don't worry about it.
All right.
Okay, we're on to, Derek, did you finish everything with yours?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're on just on new business. Anybody got any new business? No business. Okay, we'll go on to old business. In our packet, you see is a summary of proposed changes, overtime, legal holidays, vacation leave. And there's some questions highlighted. This relates to this, right?
Yes, yep. So what I've provided you with is proposed personnel plan changes, again, to address some items in overtime, legal holidays, vacation leave, to break bereavement leave out of emergency leave, bring military leave up to date, as well as FMLA leave. There are recommendations, there's recommended language in your packet. We did work on these items with the other department heads and gave them an opportunity to make sure that we weren't doing anything that would impact anybody negatively on an operation level. And you do have a copy of the non-union employee survey from this spring. And I've tried to highlight those in each different section. And then what I've done is highlighted some questions, some decision points for the board.
I gotta be honest with you, I couldn't read this.
I can send it electronically if the board prefers.
I mean, I just can't read it, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I mean,
Derek, how pressing is this? Is it something we need to act on right away, or can we wait till we get the rest of the board to?
You can definitely take it at your convenience. I would say the one item that is probably timely would be the vacation leave. Under the P plan, any changes are supposed to be advertised for 30 days. This is proposing an automatic carryover. Department has proposed 3/5 of a work week. As we're getting near the end of the year, if you want to just take in requests from employees, we can continue to do it that way. So there's nothing pressing on any of these items. So if you'd like to wait until a meeting when the rest of the board's here, we can do
we'll
that.
plan that in our next full meeting,
Okay,
our next scheduled meeting.
okay.
And on our old business, we're still waiting to hear from Hillsborough County.
Yeah, they were doing a market analysis on the value of the property, and I have reached out to the county administrator to see where he is in that process. Haven't heard back yet.
Okay, and on the next one, we're going to do the review. What's our next meeting date?
You have a meeting with the library trustees?
No, I'm talking about a regular scheduled meeting.
It would be October 18th. So I'll move that to the October 18th meeting.
Right. Rotary Park, where do we want to do? What do we want to do with that? Do you want me to talk to those people?
I can
or-
reach out to them, I think at the last meeting you had indicated, but I can reach out to Rotary. We have not found any written agreements in the files here. There was discussion back in about 2001 when the work was done to do a written agreement, a formal agreement between the town and Rotary, and that just never got followed through on. So I can reach out to the new president and just see, start a discussion with them if you'd like.
Okay. I think there's ways to do things there that that help out,
Yep,
you know, maybe I could talk to you about some ideas that.
yeah, I'd be happy to take that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's also goes with the bridge, right?
Yes.
We're still waiting on the Moose Plate grant.
Yep.
And broken windshield, how are we doing on the broken windshield, Fire Chief?
Fixed this week.
Pardon me?
He fixed this week.
Okay. Excellent. Anything else? You got a motion?
Motion to go into non-public session RSA 91A:3, 2 for A, compensation.
Can you add C, matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of a person other than a member of the public body?
Gotcha.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
That's a roll call.
Yeah, actually,
Yep.
we just did yes.
Perfect.
That'll conclude tonight's portion of our public meeting. We will now be adjourning to take some non-public business up. Thank you for watching.